Hello, welcome to Pike Creek Farm. My name is Renee and today we're going to work with the Amish Friendship bread starter. Here's my bowl. See the bubbles? Lots of bubbles. So if this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping in. I do videos on canning and baking and vintage recipes and just life here at Pike Creek Farm, which is in the thumb of Michigan. Thank you so much for joining. Today what I'm going to make is a crusty round loaf of bread. It's not a no-knead bread, and this recipe makes two loaves. And I've been working on it. This is my third time. I've been trying to get it so that my bread doesn't go like this, that it goes up. And so last time it turned out pretty good. I cooked it a little too long, but other than that, it was good. So here's my starter, and I fed this on Sunday. It says to use it before you feed it on day 10. My starter is bubbly enough that it's back to like how it would be at that stage. So I'm giving it its daily stir. You got to stir your starter, and we're going to use a cup of it to make 2 loaves of chewy, crusty, yummy bread. I am going to use my KitchenAid mixer to mix this with the dough hook. If you don't have a KitchenAid mixer, I think you could do it with a dough whisk, no problem. I just followed the recipe and it goes really fast, really fast, which is really nice. This recipe also does add a little bit of yeast to give it a boost. So my other recipe for the no knead, which is an overnight rise in the refrigerator, that does not include any yeast. So if you prefer that, check out that recipe too, that video. I'm gonna bring you down and we're gonna get to making this dough, which you'll be shocked at how fast this comes together. We need to put 1 cup of the starter in the mixing bowl. It is goopy. Now, do you name your sourdough starter or Amish Friendship starter? They say you're supposed to name it. I didn't name mine. So here we go. 1 cup. To that, we want to add 1.5 cups of lukewarm water. I couldn't find the water. I just got it, I knew. So I'm going to add that in. Then we're going to put 2 teaspoons of yeast. We're just going to sprinkle on top. I keep my yeast in the freezer. So 1. Then we're going to wait 5 minutes for it to bloom. 2. No extra sugar is added to this recipe, which is nice. Just the sugar that is in the starter that is used to feed it. I'm going to put this away and I will bring you back in 5 minutes. It is getting all bubbly in there, and you can just watch the bubbles pop up. So now we add 5 cups of flour gradually. So I'm going to start with 2 cups, and we need 1 tablespoon of salt. Sprinkle the salt on top of the flour. I'm going to add the rest of it when I add more flour. So let's put this down and get it mixing. We want it to get all the flour incorporated, and then it will make a nice ball and the edges of the bowl will be clean. So it's really wet, and we're going to need to to add more flour. We know that. So let's add 2 more cups. One, 2, and let's put the rest of the salt on top of that flour. If you put your salt directly on your yeast, I've heard that it can make the yeast not as happy. My KitchenAid is noisy. It's an old one that I bought off Marketplace. So I apologize. Okay, let's add in some more flour. This is the 5th cup. I'm not going to add it all at once, but I will probably use all of it. Gradually add the I'm going to let it knead for a little bit and come off the edges more. I'll need a little more flour, a tablespoon. Okay, we need to get a big bowl out. The recipe that I followed said to use a glass bowl big enough for it to double. I don't have a glass bowl that big. I've done it in stainless steel and it works fine. You wouldn't want to use aluminum. You could use a plastic. I'm going to put some oil in here. And coat the bowl. This is a softer dough. Take that dough ball out. I decided to put it back in the mixer and added a little bit more flour, just a couple of tablespoons, because it was too soft in the middle and hadn't kneaded enough. I was in a hurry and trying to rush it. So back in it went for just a couple more minutes. See if it, okay, it doesn't seem as sticky. Let's see if it looks better. It feels better now when I take it off the dough hook. So it is not as tacky. It isn't like sticking to me. So we're gonna, and it came out of there. So we're gonna put it in here and let it rise. I have a shower cap. I bought a whole pack of these really cheap. They work great. I can just throw it away. You can put a towel over it. I put my bread to rise in my oven with the oven light on. It seems to work well here in our house. And you need to let this rise for an hour and a half. So I'm going to set my timer and I will bring you back. Here it is. Now cut it in half. We're going to work with half at a time. And the top, what was on the top of the bowl is going to go down. So this part's a little tackier. So we're going to, instead of just putting it on the cookie sheet like this, which I have a sheet pan with parchment paper, and I'm going to sprinkle some cornmeal on it. We're going to, we don't want a lot of this flour, so just enough so it doesn't stick. Pull it up, pull it up. We want to make it so it's like taut So it kind of makes a skin, and that will help it with rising up as opposed to spreading like a pancake. And I saw this on Bake with Jack, and just keep pulling and pinching, pulling and pinching, and it gets tighter. Jim is doing something. I'm not sure what, so that's what you hear running in the background. So you want this just to be a nice, tight ball. Then we're going to let it rise for an hour. The first time I did it, they ended up touching at the end. And then when I watched this video on Bake with Jack, it seemed to really help. I'm no expert at this, but this is such good bread. I had to share it with you. Pinch it together, pinch it. So, a little bit of cornmeal. First time I did this bread, it didn't say to put parchment paper, and I didn't. And oh my gosh, it was like glued to the pan. It was bad. So I'm going to take this and set it there. So this was what was on the counter, and what was facing up is now down. So let's do the other half. And this was the top. It's more dry. This is more wet. So see how it's really soft. And we just want to get a nice kind of a skin on the outside. Pinch it together. You can even, go like, get it so it's smooth on the bottom like that. I want to make sure it's okay. This one's going to go on there. I'm going to put a towel on top and let it rise for an hour. 2 loaves. And let me get the paper straight. There we go. And I'm going to cover this up and put it on top of my stove and set the timer for an hour. I have my oven on. It's been preheating and heating up for about the past half hour, and I have a 9x13 metal pan in there, and I'm going to add water to it before I add in this bread. But first I need to sprinkle dust it with some flour. And then cut a design in the top so that when it expands, air can escape and it doesn't just like bust open. And as you can see, there is space in between and it rose up more. The recipe that I follow calls for a tic-tac-toe. So you can use any sharp knife. I've seen people use even scissors and snip, especially if you want to do fancy designs. I'm gonna put this water in the pan and it will make steam. And I'll add more halfway through. I'm gonna set the timer for 25 minutes and bake these. You want them to be a nice golden brown, and when you tap them, they sound hollow. I have my timer set for 15 minutes. I'm gonna come back and add another jar of water to make more steam and rotate the pan. And then put it on for 10 more minutes. It takes from 25 to 30 minutes. You want it to be a nice golden brown, and when you tap on it, it sounds hollow. And then you get to let it rest and not cut into it. That's the hard part. Here they are out of the oven. And they're nice and round and tall. And they sound hollow when you tap. So I'm gonna get a cooling rack out and put them on that. And as hard as it is, you're supposed to let it wait until they've totally cooled to cut into them. Sometimes it's hard to resist, but if you want it to last longer and better, not be gummy, that's the best thing to do. It's the next morning. I took one loaf over to my son's family. They were having steak dinner and they cut right into it and thought it was wonderful. So let me cut into this. I think I'm gonna toast some for breakfast. Here's the inside. It has a beautiful crumb. It is soft, but it's chewy on the outside, but it's soft. Let me toast some up. Breakfast is ready. I just put some butter on it, got some scrambled eggs with leftover bacon, but look how nice this toast up. Crunchy on the edge, soft in the middle. I hope you enjoy trying this bread using the Friendship Bread Starter. Don't forget to check the playlist with all the recipes that Angela, the inquisitive farm wife, and I have been making. And in April, we're gonna have Friendship Fridays, where every Friday we're gonna have recipes using our starter, and we're asking all of you to join in too. Yep, if you want to send me a picture of something you've made, if you want to do a video, we're going to have a special playlist and share lots and lots of Amish Friendship Bread Starter, Sweet Sourdough Starter, Herman, whatever you want to call it, recipes. See you next time at Pike Creek Farm.